Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 152 of the Terminal City FC podcast, part of the Area 51 Sports Network. Josh Ray joined alongside Nathan Dirk as per usual, talking all things soccer. And we're broadcasting live on the Area 51 YouTube, Facebook, and the Twitter account. So, another game, another missed opportunity, drop point, loss for the Vancouver Whitecaps. And once again, this team looks tired. There's some pretty poor officiating, but you can't blame fatigue and officiating on the loss alone because the Whitecaps didn't help themselves, didn't do any favors for themselves offensively.
I think you're absolutely right. Yes, we can talk about officiating, and we will. Likely the worst officiating we've seen since last year playoffs and Tim Ford. But it didn't seem like the Whitecaps had anything going for them other than a very, very few moments in between. Now, Minnesota didn't really feel like they were offering a whole lot in the beginning either. Whitecaps actually came out, started the game not bad, but that schedule of three days between games, and this again was a continuation of that. It was the last game of that grueling schedule. It simply wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, it just you could tell that the team was gassed, but Minnesota didn't really have anything going for them, especially in that first half.
Until the
penalty. Which more on that later. They did have a few chances in the second half, including a breakaway that Yohei Takaoka stopped. But the Whitecaps, they didn't register a single shot until late in the half. And Sam Adekugbe tries. It goes off the Minnesota defender and into the net, but VAR calls the goal off because Ryan Gauld apparently fouled San Binjiang in the box.
This is one of those ones where I think it is difficult for VAR to overrule the referee.
Yeah.
This is one where on the angle that we were shown, and let's be honest, it was a pretty poor angle. It shows with Ryan Gauld behind the Minnesota defender, so it's difficult to see whether or not Gauld is hitting the ball or hitting the leg of the player. Unintentional foul or not, it's still a foul. And if that's the call on the field, I don't think VAR can do anything about that because it's not clear and obvious either way. I know a lot of people think he touched the ball and not the player. I can't tell from what we were shown either. So I think this is one where you begrudgingly have to go with the call on the pitch, which kind of sucks because Adekugbe, this would have been in back-to-back games with goals, weren't? No, not back-to-back.
Yeah, back-to-back 90 minutes.
And his only two goals in MLS, right?
Yeah. Well, he did score against LA Galaxy a few weeks ago. But from that angle, it's just hard to tell whether it was a genuine foul or not. It was just
this is one I can't fault the referee on this one.
I don't know. You fault VAR because the angles that we were given, you can't tell because it's such a.
Well, I mean, it was one of those things that makes you wonder, is with that many cameras in a stadium, I really hope that they're not just using cameras only on where the broadcast side of BC plays is. There's got to be cameras around the entire pitch, right? You need angles from all over because one side is never going to give you a full story. And if you want to make VAR actually functional, you got to have different angles.
Yeah, and you could say that, Sam Binjiang dived, but we can't even tell if there was any contact because the angle kind of sucked. And the penalty, Matias Laborda apparently fouls the Minnesota player. It looked like it was right on the line, and I think there was contact, and it was very minimal, and it was right on the line. So maybe the referee got this one right because there clearly was contact.
I disagree. I didn't see contact, and more I look at that replay, I'm pretty sure I see air in between the two legs of the players. So for me, this is no foul. The other thing is, if it is a foul, I believe it's outside of the box. So, I mean, there's two in that. For me, this is clear and obvious. This one should not have been a penalty.
This one, I don't know. I think it's 50-50. Because
Yeah.
after me watching it again and again, it looks like there was a bit of contact right.
It's kind of funny because
right
I
on
went
the
the
line.
opposite way.
Yeah, I think there was contact right on the line. So,
Yeah.
Some cases this is a penalty. In some cases, there
I think
is
if
not.
anything,
But I think
if anything, Laborda's reputation might work against him here.
yeah, because
He's known for, let's be honest, that he's a bit of a hothead, right? He does get pulled out of position. He can be very aggressive. He is an aggressive center back, and that's fine. But it has burned him before, and I feel like this is another one of those cases where reputation overrules the play on the pitch.
Yeah, and Dotson steps up. Takaoka dives the wrong way.
Yeah,
and Minnesota were up 1-0 20 minutes into the match. But again, Whitecaps not really generating anything other than that Adekube shot. A lot of crosses, no one on the end of it, and long ball to Brian White like he's Justin Jefferson, but that didn't work either. It just felt like they were out of ideas, looked tired, disjointed. And though there were moments in the second half where they did try a few things, like Raposo had a shot just from inside the box that trickled wide, but I can't really think of a shot or a chance where Dane Sinclair had to make a difficult save.
I will say that when Raposo came on, there was a greater sense of urgency on the pitch. I think as far as a sub goes, he did an okay job. It's you're not given a lot of time to do a whole lot, but I thought he was okay. Sam Adekube, I believe, had a very strong game. I know there's people that disagree. I
think he was the best player on the pitch for the Whitecaps.
I think if you don't think Sam had a decent game, you weren't watching this game. I mean, he was the most dangerous person on the pitch. He was the Vancouver's man of the match at the end of the game. 100% in his duels.
100%. Yeah, and again, I said there wasn't much creativity, but almost all of it was coming through him.
Absolutely. So yeah, that this one kind of it surprises me. You also, it's weird because I know a lot of people were questioning the substitutions that Vanny made. The substitutions like Ali Ahmed coming when he did, when Ryan Gauld came when he did, those are conditioning subs.
Yeah,
these are players that are not at 100% fitness. They missed. They weren't even on the bench the game before. So if you expect them to go for more than an hour, again, I don't know what team you're watching. Like this, yes, you want them to do better. I think they should have in this game. This was the strongest starting 11 Vanny could have possibly started. The only person that you could slot into this lineup, and again, you'd have to make an argument of who you're going to take out, is Fafa, right?
Pico,
but he's not there because he was suspended.
Yeah, and won't be next game.
Or you can make an argument, maybe Blackman should be in for Laborda or something like that, right?
Right, and Stuart Armstrong, Ryan Gauld, Ali Ahmed were in the lineup, but again, nothing was really working. I barely noticed Stuart Armstrong other than...
He needs time. I'm sorry. Like this is his first start. I know there was one guy I was talking to who was starting to say like, oh, I think we got to pull the plug on Armstrong. I'm like, he's played 68 minutes at that time.
Yeah,
68 minutes.
And that was his first start.
I'm sorry, but you won't be able to evaluate Stuart Armstrong on whether or not
until next season
until a third of the way through next season. This season, you coming in middle of the season, have had zero time to get ready. Like he's still working on getting match fitness. I'm sorry, but this season is a bit of a wash. Yes, you want him to have an instant impact. That is very few and far between that can do that in MLS when you're playing a different calendar than the majority of other leagues out there.
Yeah, well, remember a few years ago, Ryan Gauld did, but he's Ryan
Gauld.
Gauld.
Ryan Gauld is definitely the exception. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and not going to harp on Armstrong too much because, again, match fitness and all that. He has next game to get better, plus there's a week off, and Really, like Brian
Having
White
this
looked.
week, having a full, well, I guess 8 days because the game's on Sunday, I believe.
Yeah, the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think that's going to make a world of difference. I mean, it's going to be tough that, and we'll talk about it. We're missing 6 players due to international
Yeah, I'll talk
call-up,
about that later.
but LAFC is missing a number of players as well. So got to remember that too.
Yeah, but this game against Minnesota, the XG was like 2.46 for Minnesota, 0.46 for Vancouver, yet Vancouver had most of the possession, like 63% or whatever it was.
It is frustrating when you're watching games where your team has the majority of possession and don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Right.
And
like you said, like the first shot for Vancouver wasn't until the very end of the first half. I mean, that's what you were watching, is you were watching a lot of side play. Yes, and I know you're stretching them out, you're forcing them to run, but there's no final third. There's just no final third.
yeah, and also props to Minnesota's midfield, especially because they suffocated the Whitecaps.
Yep.
And yeah, but forced the Whitecaps to make a lot of back passes, side passes. I know that's frustrating for anyone watching, and it was frustrating for us too. But we're not gonna deny that, but it's even more frustrating that just take a shot, because there are instances where the Whitecaps could have just taken a shot on Sinclair, at least try to make a save.
Yeah, we were talking about that, right? And it's the old. I know it's hockey, but the old Wayne Gretzky quote, right? You're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It applies to soccer too.
Yeah, it really does work in soccer, especially with the Whitecaps in that game. And right now, like, we're 2 games left. Top 4 is pretty much dead.
Yeah. Right. They're hoping for top 7 right now.
Yeah, the highest. I wrote an article about this the other day. The highest they can finish, possible finish, is 6th, because Colorado is just 3 points ahead of them. So they can either finish anywhere from 6th to 9th, because right now they
could finish in 5th.
Are in the play-in. It's possible if they could finish in 5th, but
yeah,
that's very unlikely, and Houston, Colorado would have to drop points on the final day.
I think right now, if they can get 7th, like if they win this game in hand, they're in the driver's seat for 7th place. But winning this game in hand, I mean, it's all about this.
Yeah, and people are frustrated, and rightfully so. Like, does Vanny change tactics? I mean, he's a very stick to his principles type of guy. I asked him about if there's anything that needs to change. He said not really. They just need to regroup and stick to the plan, because when the plan works, it works, which is, I guess, fair.
But I think it's right in there, when the plan works.
When the plan works, but right? When it doesn't.
And we have seen him switch, but he never starts a game without those underlying principles. He'll switch partway through a game, and I guess that is growth on Vanny's part, because a year ago that would have never happened. But sometimes you wonder if those switches come a little bit too late.
And I don't know. Some are saying, 3-4-3 is not working, 3-5-2 is not working, go to 4 in the back. Tried the Christmas tree against Portland
a couple games ago. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it worked for the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So people are also, calling for Vanny's job, which I guess in sports, anytime a team loses, a coach has to take the fall. But at this point, if the Whitecaps make the play-in round and lose, or quite possibly lose in the first round in quick succession, I'm sure Vanny knows he's on the hot seat now.
His job is safe this year. But if they don't make the top 7, or if they don't win the play-in, he's going to be under pressure to begin the next season. But his job is safe this season. The whole thing was to make the playoffs. That was the minimum. He did it. He did the minimum.
And one championship.
And one.
That's the minimum.
Right? Yeah, so he did the minimum, but what we're starting to see is where in the first 3 years of his tenure, there was marginal growth every year. This year is stagnated, and it's weird because 5 games ago, we would have said, you know what, this team is still on pace for their best ever Major League Soccer year.
Yeah,
their
like a
best
month
ever.
ago. Yeah, a month ago.
5 games makes a huge difference. So
Yeah,
it's very strange where we went from, best manager so far in this Major League Soccer era to we're now having this conversation. It shows you just how fine those margins are.
I'm not saying it's likely, but another first round exit, but it's more likely with a play-in exit. I'm sure it would be considered, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
I wouldn't hold my breath either. No, he's safe this year. He's safe this year, but there's going to be questions asked of next year, especially also because next year is a final year of a contract.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and just right now, like the things are, I don't remember seeing such a bad stretch for the Whitecaps since the DeSantos days, but those days the standards were lower because the team wasn't as good. But stylistically, like
on
right
paper,
now, it just feels worse because the standards are higher.
The standards are much higher, and they should be. On paper, this is the best overall squad the Whitecaps have had in the MLS era. Yes, I know. I mean, there have been players here and there in previous years that have shone, but as a squad, all 20-odd players, 25-odd players that are in that first team, this is the best squad that they have
by
had.
far. Yeah,
I think this squad
beats 2015.
I think the squad still needs work. And I can say that about any squad. Squads always need to be refreshed. And there are areas that I would look at in particular in the squad. But you should be able to get more out of this, out of these players with what you have. So, like I said, he's hitting the minimums, but he's not going any higher than that right now, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, things need to, as I said for years, aim higher, especially with the squad at their best in the MLS era. But like we said, a week off, and Sunday, LAFC come to town. This is the game in hand that was originally supposed to happen in August, but since LAFC made Leagues Cup final, that game has been postponed to Sunday. So we all know about LAFC, one of the best teams in MLS since they entered the league pretty much. Right now, they're second in MLS, 58 points, just 2 ahead of the Seattle Sounders.
Yeah.
By the way.
They had a bit of a tough run right after Leagues Cup, but they've picked themselves up. They've won 4 of the last 5.
Yeah. For LAFC, that's kind of expected.
Yeah. I think also they have one of the better home records, which I mean, that's not really going to help them right now. But the one thing that's going to be interesting is they're without Bouanga this weekend.
Yeah, they're like every team is going to have players on international duty. Yet there are some games during the international break because MLS. I think so. Denny Bouanga will be away on international duty with, I believe, Gabon. I think, and I'm sure there'll be other players too. But even without Bouanga, this is a solid team.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to LAFC, I mean, you can take a look. You also got to remember they've just signed not a new player, but an old new player in Vela. Yep. He is at the point in his getting back to match fitness where he could probably slot in for 20, 30 minutes towards the end of a match. I don't know what it comes when LAFC start playing the Whitecaps and Ryan Hollingshead turns into this absolute wonder of a center back that apparently can score braces. So, I mean, he's always someone that the Whitecaps in particular have to watch.
Let's not forget.
It's just a well-built team. It's just a well-built team.
Vale is older, but he's a Caps killer.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's not to say that they don't have other players as well. Like this is a strong team.
Yeah, they have K Kamara, the wonder journeyman,
Who's played for half the teams in MLS.
Wherever he goes, he scores goals, and he's still doing that with LAFC. And Olivier Giroud,
which is going to be kind of the X factor because every time we play, we play LAFC a lot. We played them 6 times last year in various competitions. He's the new thing, right? We haven't played against him.
Yeah, and there's also Hugo Lloris, someone, of course, you're very familiar with.
Yep.
But like Hollingshead, Ilya Sanchez, their captain.
Bogus.
I don't know if Bogus will be on international duty too, because I know he gets called up for his country. I forgot which.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if he got called up this time around, but
yeah, I'm not too sure.
This is going to be another tough test, and God forbid, a potential playoff matchup.
You get out of that first round, absolutely.
It's home again, and this homestand has not gone according to plan because I don't know what it is exactly, but the home record has been very subpar this year, and LAFC, last time these two teams met in the league was in May. 3-0 loss for Vancouver. At the time, it was the worst performance of the season until, the Seattle game. And then they also met in Leagues Cup. Whitecaps ended up blowing a 2-0 lead, but were good for the first 85 minutes, but won on penalties.
Yeah. What I think the head-to-head in this, Whitecaps have won in MLS anyway. Whitecaps have won 5, LAFC have won 9, and then there's been 5 draws. So,
and
on average,
trying to look back,
LAFC has won about double the number of matches in this head-to-head than the Whitecaps. This is going to be a difficult game. This is going to be a game I can't really get my head around because it's an international break and these many players that are missing. I mean, you're basically talking about 6 players that easily slot into any starting 11 the Whitecaps ever decide to put out. I think this requires Vanny to go back to the drawing board because I don't think the way he likes to play can be necessarily done with this many players out.
Yep.
He needs to find a system that's going to work for the players that are going to be involved. And the one person I'm thinking about in particular who he needs to really, really make this work for, because he's going to be playing, is Levante Johnson.
Yeah.
If you want to score goals, you got to get your goal scorers scoring. He's supposed to be one of those guys. And if you've got Pico gone, Gauld gone, White will still be around, but Johnson is going to be the guy that's probably going to slot in there somewhere alongside Armstrong to make up.
I know people are going to be like, oh, no, I don't want Levante Johnson to start. But
who else?
I don't think Vanny has a choice.
I
there's
I wouldn't be surprised if you see maybe someone like Nico on the bench, right?
Yeah.
He's now signed for the first team. You might as well put him there if you've got him available. But right now in the pecking order, Johnson's the guy they'll go to.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, there's Diber Caicedo too, but match fitness is also a factor here.
Depends how they play.
It really depends on what Vanny does, how he approaches this game. And luckily, as we said, he has time to go back to the drawing board, and the team is actually going to train until Sunday at UBC.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a tough test against LAFC. And just looking here, the last time the Whitecaps won against LAFC at BC Place was in July of 2022. Under Scuba scoring a late winner.
That's disheartening.
He'll be gone for a national duty.
Months since you've last won at your own building. That is, BC Place is not a scary place for teams to go to. So
yeah, I haven't won. There was the Leagues Cup break, but since July, it's only
Can Champ. None of that, right? If you haven't won,
Whitecaps have only beat San Jose in their own
tough.
building, and San Jose, worst team in the league. But
so
I'm just
Is top 7 possible?
Yes.
Yes.
It is very, very possible, but
they need a rewrite.
Use this game in hand. Use the trump card to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all right, that's the Whitecaps. So the Northern Super League, sticking with Vancouver, Christine Sinclair will join the Vancouver Rise FC not as a player, not as a coach, but she will join the ownership group for, it seems like, a small stake alongside Greg Kerfoot. And she will join, obviously, once her playing career wraps up next month.
This is one of those pieces of news where you kind of go, oh, that's nice. And you kind of move on. You do wonder what kind of owner she will be. And she didn't give numbers, she didn't give percentages, but she said, by her own account, she said it's a very small percentage.
Stake. Yeah.
It makes you feel like this is the Steve Nash of ownership, where yes, they own, and that's it.
Tough. Well,
I would like her involvement to be more. In some way, in her talk, she did mention that coaching, not head coaching, but coaching of some sort is possible down the road, but that she would not want to start at the Northern Super League level. She'd want to kind of start at a lower level, earn her stripes, and work her way up from there, which within the grand scheme of the Whitecaps organization is absolutely possible when you think of the Rex Academy and all that.
Yeah.
So I think it's good that they got her involved somehow. I think it's good that they let her decide what that involvement was going to be. But I can understand people that look at this and go, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been better if she played one more year or started coaching, but I guess this is what she wants, and cool, at least she's back home, back where it all started.
Stephanie Labbe, who's now sporting director for the Rise, did mention, obviously, when they were looking at players, Christine Sinclair was the first name that came up. And she said it herself, because she went through the same thing when she retired from her playing careers. When you're ready, you're ready. And you just have to know that about yourself. And that's the same thing Christine said about herself is, it would be great. It would be nice to play. But, I had said, this is my final year. This is it. And
Sinead King.
And you know what? Good on her for making that decision. I can't see it being an easy decision, especially with this whole added thing of a brand new league in your home country. But, good on her for making the decision that fits her.
Yeah, it's what she wants to do at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So
final club in the Northern Super League has
one
released...
more thing, actually.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The players, both Stephanie Labbe and Sinead King said they'll be looking to announce some player signings in the next few weeks and months. And apparently, for terms of a head coach, they're finalizing a contract.
That's right.
And a stadium, hopefully they'll announce that towards the end of this year because they're finalizing it or continuing to finalize it.
The one thing with the stadium, I want to say Sinead
King.
Oh my God. Sorry?
King, yeah.
Sinead King, thank you, who I believe is the president of Rise. In speaking with media, she did mention that, it's Vancouver, but I don't know if it was a slip of the tongue or what it was, but she said when they're looking at stadiums, she mentioned looking at the Lower Mainland. So it does make me wonder, how big is the scope of what they're looking for when it comes to a stadium?
We shall see. And as you mentioned, or started to mention, Montreal is the new member of the Northern Super League. Let me share my screen here. And
they announced a couple of days ago, what their name and their badge is going to look like. Le Roses de Montreal, or Montreal Roses FC.
Roses de Montreal, right here.
And there you go. So
these...
we have badges and crests and everything for all 6 of the inaugural teams. What do you think about the name? What do you think about the badge? Start with the name first.
Name, I like it. I mean, for a women's team, it makes sense. And there was something saying that something to do with love and roses. I can't remember the exact quote, but the color is so Montreal. Like, it has Royal in Montreal because Montreal translates to Mount Royal.
Yep. Which
And I think
literally
it looks nice.
Montreal surrounds is Mount Royal.
Yeah. And so these are the 6 teams of the Northern Super League, the 6 founding teams.
When it comes to the name, it sounds like a botanical garden rather than a sports franchise.
Yeah, but when you put FC, it kind of
it just, to me, it doesn't.
I mean, I like the name.
It's not my first thing. That being said, I do like the badge.
Yeah, I like the badge too, but
yeah,
I don't know. I think the French name Roses de Montreal FC sounds much better than just Montreal Roses.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. When I take a look at all 6 of these badges, I got to be honest. I think for the most part, teams hit it out of the park. I do like all of them. My only big thing is Toronto's and the colors.
Yeah, and I said before, I keep thinking of Portland Timbers every time I see Toronto's.
And for me, I'm thinking of when you start putting that on a kid. I'm sorry, but when I'm watching this on television or in the stadium, those colors are just too similar. It's going to look like just a single color blob.
I don't know. I can't decide which badge is my favorite. I mean, I love Halifax's and Ottawa's the most, I guess. But in terms of the name, Halifax is...
Halifax, Calgary, Ottawa, and Vancouver.
Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong with either of them. For me, only Toronto is the one I have an issue.
Yeah. And
I
like
can't
I
wait
said,
to see
Montreal's
what
I
they...
like. It doesn't stand as much as for me. Badge. I don't really know. I think the name for me that speaks the most to the city or like where it is Halifax. Halifax Tides, I think, is just a fantastic name.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see what the kits look like, which I assume will be announced sometime next year.
Here's hoping. I know a lot of people are looking forward to it right now. There's a lot of merchandise already out there, scarves and just
season ticket deposits,
t-shirts and whatnot. But once they have kits out, I think you're going to have a lot of people in line to grab those.
Oh, definitely. So the CPL, the playoff race is starting to heat up with 2 weeks left in the regular season, and Forge have won the Canadian Shield as the regular season champion.
Because that's what Forge does.
Yeah, and we should mention that the CPL playoff final, the championship final, will be broadcasted on CBC Sports.
Nice.
So more eyes will get to see this. Good for the league on November 9th. And it's just good that there will be more eyes on the CPL. Sticking with the BC teams, this is a wild second half between Vancouver and Halifax Wanderers. Vancouver was down a man for most of the game, with Elijah Baugh getting a second yellow. Though Halifax's Zachary Fernandez got sent off in the 80th minute, which made things interesting. Alejandro Diaz did score the penalty for Vancouver FC. It looked like Vancouver were on their way to 3 points. Callum Irving standing on his head. But, it just can't last forever.
No.
Because Vitor Diaz, right at the death, takes a one-time shot after a flurry of chances. Beats Callum Irving and secures the point for Halifax. But that was after Jan Fillion was out of his net on the corner kick. Vancouver's Austin Ritchie has the ball. He couldn't have scored from there, but a smarter thing would have been to just shoot it down the pitch for a goal kick instead of just holding on to it.
Yeah. Because
that maybe would have sealed the game for Vancouver. So, wild game there. That 5th spot, it's still up for grabs. And a little help from Cavalry for Vancouver and Halifax, because Pacific ended up getting blown out by cavalry.
Yeah.
And the goalkeeper, Emil Gazdov, got sent off in the 3rd minute because he was way off his line, way outside the box trying to play the ball. Don't know why they were arguing, but it was clear. So
if you give an inch, right?
Yeah, no, it was more than just an inch. It was like at least a couple of inches.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And should be worth noting that Vancouver Whitecaps loanee Jay Herdman scored the first goal.
Yeah.
I don't remember the guy who made the cross, but that was a nice pass to him and a nice shot. And
Herdman is one of those players that is very, very close, I think, to breaking into, being a squad player for the first team. It's just a matter of whether or not there's space at the Whitecaps for that to happen.
Yeah, but good on him to get that was his first start, by the way.
Yeah.
Get his first goal in professional level. Tobias Wierczynski scoring a brace, their top striker. And yeah, Pacific were never really much into this game. And though they did score 1 goal, which was a penalty kick, but nothing really going for Pacific, and playoff hopes are kind of fading, or pretty much have been fading.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna take a look at the standings right now. I'm gonna share the screen. So yeah, it's quite tight still between 5th and 8th, just 1 point separating everybody. Vancouver leading the way with 28, and Pacific has the same amount of points, but Valor and Halifax Wonders are still in it. So 2 weeks left. Who gets that 5th and final playoff spot?
It's amazing. A single point between those 4 teams.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a dogfight.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So that's one thing before we leave the CPL. This was interesting. And this could beef up a potential playoff matchup. So Atletico Ottawa head coach Carlos Gonzalez, who apparently isn't shy to say things, because earlier in the year he got fined for saying that the league doesn't want them to win.
Yeah.
This time around, he says York is the weakest team in the playoffs after Atletico Ottawa beat them 1-0. So York United's head coach Benjamin Gonzalez was asked, "Oh, what do you think of his comments?" Basically, he just said, "Oh, my father told me opinions of others don't determine who we are. It's fine. I don't have an opinion on him, on Ottawa, but they're a great team and they have great players. Maybe their weakness is somewhere else." Which I guess is the best possible response he could give.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much all you can say. You're not really gonna win by challenging those comments. The only way you challenge those comments is on the field.
Yeah, and it's very likely that these two teams will meet in the playoffs, and this just adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, let's move over to Europe. So I knew this game wasn't going to be easy because Nottingham Forest, they're a very good defensive team. And remember, this team beat Liverpool at Anfield a few weeks ago. And their low block is just so hard to break down. And Chelsea kind of were victims of that. Because, their defense, their goalkeeper even, just really frustrating. Especially Murillo, that Brazilian defender, who looks like he's really making a name for himself now because top clubs are linked to him, including Chelsea. So Chelsea couldn't really finish their chances, though overall they played well. But this is one of those games where you think, man, they should have won. But Forest got on the board first in the second half. Chris Wood taps in the first goal after this guy in free kicks, James Ward-Prowse, finds Milinkovic in the box, then Wood just gets the tap in. And I knew some people on Twitter were saying, "Oh, Robert Sanchez should have made the save." Kind of hard to make a save when it's being redirected. There's so much a goalkeeper can do.
Yeah.
And defenders kind of took a nap there on that free kick. And you don't do that, especially when James Ward-Prowse is taking them. I don't know what this guy is. Every time he plays Chelsea, he gets goal involvement on a free kick.
He's one of the better guys when it comes to set plays.
Oh, he's one of the best in the league.
Yeah,
when it comes
which
to
is it's crazy because that's like his one claim to fame, right?
Yep, but not too long ago, Nani Madueke, he's been under scrutiny because he's not scoring. He's too selfish, but his selfishness kind of pays off because great strike with his left foot, just inside the box, passes, sells, and another assist for Cole Palmer as well. Well taken goal.
I don't know. I think that kid's going to go places.
Yeah. And big opportunity for Chelsea to win this game because Ward-Prowse, he falls on the ball, grabs it to prevent Nicholas Jackson from going on a breakaway, and he gets sent off. So Chelsea had the opportunity here, but the ref, that wasn't the end of it because we talked about how poor the decisions were in the Whitecaps Minnesota game. And this ref was kind of the same. So, forgot to mention earlier that Ryan Raposo got booked in the Whitecaps game even though he was the one being fouled. This happened to Mark Cucurella too. So Cucurella comes in, he gets clipped, and falls into Enzo Maresca, yet he gets the yellow card. And a huge melee ensues. And more yellow cards were brought out. So Cucurella suspended for the next game against Liverpool, and so is Levi Colwell because of yellow card accumulation. And not only that, Chelsea have accumulated the most yellow cards in the Premier League, 27, and are going to get further fines.
I actually saw there was an article of whether or not they have a yellow card problem because they are just playing so on the edge of that line.
Yeah, and some were justified. Some were just silly. But a lot of these yellow cards come from that Bournemouth game where Anthony Taylor just gave cards to everyone.
Yeah. So,
I mean, discipline, sure, is an issue, but some of it, the calls don't make sense, like that Cucurella one. And you saw that during the melee, Cole Palmer didn't want to get involved. He just sat there and took a rest.
I can respect that, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's the same thing. Like when this sort of stuff happens, the sport has to stop. Like literally, it's just people standing around because people are just acting like children. So I get it.
Yeah, I guess he just wanted to play. Well,
yeah, right.
Yeah, he probably I'm too tired of this. I don't want to be involved. I don't want to get booked. Nap time.
Yeah, I mean, you're not doing your team any service by getting involved.
Yeah, and then there were like 10, 12, 13 minutes of stoppage time or whatever it was. The stoppage time alone was wild, but Chelsea nearly won, nearly lost, because this was a goalkeeper battle between Matt Sales and Robert Sanchez. Sanchez robbed Neco Williams, who just went down the left side, and I think this might possibly be his best save in a Chelsea jersey. And then going the other way, Mudryk crosses to Nkunku, but Sales just robs him, point blank.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what a save. But that was earlier when Joao Felix missed a clear header. So, overall, frustrating game. Should have won. Probably. But there are a lot of Chelsea fans saying, oh, title race before the game. We're not in the title race.
I'm sorry, don't say title race when it's October.
Exactly.
Don't.
It's not in the title race. The title isn't a priority this year. Getting top four is next year, maybe the year after. Enzo Maresca said they're not there with the likes of Liverpool, City, and Arsenal yet. Yeah. It's going to take time. So the manager knows what he's talking about.
Look how long it took about it before they were doing anything with Arteta, right?
Yep. So this game shows that there is still a ways to go. And if this is a bad game by Chelsea these days, I'll take it. It's better than losing 1-0.
Oh, you can't break down a low wait till we start talking Spurs, and we'll talk about what a bad game looks like.
Yeah. So, again, I don't understand where this title race talk is coming from because it's not there. And before we leave Chelsea, it's worth mentioning that Cole Palmer has been named England's Men's Player of the Year despite not starting a single game at the Euros. That goes to show how good he's been, how good he will continue to be.
Yeah.
I don't know what Gareth Southgate was thinking still, but I don't know. I felt like this Tottenham against Brighton, classic Tottenham.
What a beautiful first half.
Yep, it was.
What a beautiful first half. They could have scored in the first 15 seconds of the match. Werner playing a beautiful cross to Johnson, just a little bit out of his reach. But I mean, that was what set that first half. I mean, Johnson would end up scoring, but at first it was Madison. Madison with just a beautiful build-up from them. Madison scored in the 23rd minute, ends up being called offside. But they did score through Johnson, 6 goals in 6 games.
Yeah,
right?
Doubt is wrong.
6 goals in 6 games. They would add a second, and I believe it was Madison later on. Yeah, Madison did score later on. They were flying in that first half. First half, it was great. You go to the dressing room. Good job, boys. Keep doing what you're doing. You know Brighton's going to want to get back into this game.
And they did.
It didn't take long. 3 minutes in. I mean, this is one of those games where you got to tell your guys, this other team's going to come out flying. Just sit back for 10, 15 minutes, absorb them, don't do anything stupid, keep your defensive position, go from there. 3 minutes into the half, and Brighton scores. And then at that point, you know that this is going to be dangerous.
The defending on the second and third goals, like they were just standing there.
This, again, is where you get the discussions of, does Postecoglou have a plan B? Right? Yes, he has a set philosophy. Yes, we know what Tottenham means. We know how they're going to play. But when that doesn't work, what do you do? And we don't see that switch. I don't expect that switch to happen at the beginning of the second half, because everything you've done so far in the first half is why you're up 2-0. For sure. Keep going. But when the game switches, what we saw is one team adapt and another team unable to adapt. That's basically it. Right? That's basically it. We saw one team that was willing to adapt when it wasn't working. We saw another team too rigid in their principles. And it burned them. And then I don't know what it is, but there seems to be something with international breaks where Spurs can never win that game before an international break. I don't know if that's just me in my head right now, but I've got that feeling. This was frustrating because this was a game that not only did they lose 3 points, there should have never been any doubt after that for first 45 minutes.
Yeah, they just
Postecoglou said that second 45 minutes is probably the worst 45 minutes that he has seen the Spurs play in his tenure, and he's not wrong.
He's right.
Yeah, right. Like it was.
What was that second half?
I mean, the only way I put it was a capitulation.
It felt like they stopped playing.
Yeah, that was
literally.
That was it.
Just from watching this.
Nothing else to say. It was disheartening, but I think this, yes, and you can say players didn't stick to the plan, but I think some of this, a sizable chunk, has to be on the coach, because when the plan does not work, and when you see the other bench starting to make changes in order to get back into a game, you have to adapt. You have to.
Did.
And they never did. Spurs never did.
Yeah. So that's Brighton. They're always a stingy team.
Yeah. Brighton is a difficult team, I think, for anyone to play. You got to remember, last year, Brighton was on the cusp of fighting for European spots.
Yeah.
Right? They were right there and kind of until like that last month. They were there in that fight. And they haven't changed. Brighton has, I got to say, one of the best scouting departments out there.
One of the best run clubs in the world, Brighton.
They are. And it's not just for the players they bring in, it's for the coaches they bring in as well. Some of the best and brightest coaches come through Brighton.
Exactly.
They're a good club. They're in that mix of not the top 4, top 6, or whatever you're looking at, but they're pushing within that second string of clubs that are in the Premier League.
Yep.
And if the top 6 don't have a plan against them, they're going to get burned, and that's what happened.
That's what happened to Tottenham.
Yeah. I got nothing else to say. It sucked.
Yeah. For a Spurs fan, I'm sure it definitely sucked. Good for me, bad for you.
Yup.
Other stories here. So Paul Pogba, he can play after his drug suspension has been reduced to 18 months, and he's eligible to train starting in January.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the original suspension, I want to say, was 4 years.
Yeah, it was.
So he got that reduced by over half, which means that he can get going.
I mean,
4 years would have been the end of his career. I mean,
yeah, at least
honestly. So
this time around, he gets to revitalize his career and show what gas he has left in the tank that doesn't involve doping.
yeah.
And kind of crazy to think that he's only played for 2 clubs in his life, Man United and Juventus.
Paul Pogba has had a very strange career.
Yeah.
Strange because of a lot of the things that have happened off the pitch. We remember the
definitely
bizarre story with his brother
and the witch doctor and Mbappe.
Yeah, all that stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean, right now he's one of those, the best of that never did.
Yeah, let's just say he's one of football's characters. That could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on the way you look at it.
Yeah, it can be a good thing or a bad thing. That's true. I mean, I guess there's a few other players you can definitely put in that category of players that were just larger than life for the things that they did off the pitch, which is kind of disheartening because they are skilled players. I mean, you'd hope that would be the story.
I've never been a Pogba fan, but I know he has skill.
You know, I'm the same way. I'm the same way. I've never really been a fan of his because I do believe he's very, very inconsistent.
And that's exactly why.
Wow, he changes games.
Yeah.
Absolutely changes games.
He said, finally, the nightmare is over, and he cannot wait to get back on the pitch, and we'll see how he can get back into things with Juventus.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes to get him back up and running and ready.
Yep.
I mean, I'm guaranteed he's been running around and he's been training on.
I'm sure he's been working out right? At home.
He's physically ready to go. It's just a matter of reintegrating back into the team and going from there.
Actually, some new stuff regarding Pogba. Fabrizio Romano tweets a quote from Juventus CEO Scanavino that there's talks between Pogba and his camp to let him leave Juventus and become a free agent.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it looks like Marseille are interested.
Oh my gosh. What did I say about Marseille last week?
Yeah.
What did I? Oh, okay. I am not surprised in the slightest.
This is from French journalist named Malik Traore. So we'll see where this goes. Again, Marseille in controversial figures.
Yeah.
I'm not
surprised in the slightest.
Surrounding Cornelius and Kone.
Yeah. Controversial figures and Canadian center backs. Or no, just Canadian
players. Right?
Yeah.
Back to the Premier League. Apparently, both the Premier League and Man City have claimed victory over the judge's ruling in case over the associated party transaction or the APT rules.
Yeah, so this is completely separate to the whole 115 charges thing. This was a separate thing. This had to do with how how financial reporting happens with third-party sponsorship, I believe, in there. Obviously, the Premier League is saying that, certain teams like Man City, it's been overinflating. Man City is saying no. So out of all of these rules, there was 2 points that the judge ruled against the Premier League. Manchester City is taking that, saying, doesn't matter if it's 1 point, doesn't matter if it's 100 points. If one is off, the rules are null and void. They're 100% done. Well, the Premier League has claimed victory, saying, well, the majority of it is fine. So we're actually going to hold the thing in a month, amend the rules to fit these new things, and be fine. Where Manchester City is saying you can't do that. In fact, Manchester City went a step further, had a letter written by their lawyers, sent it to all the other Premier League clubs saying the Premier League is wrong. Like they're actually trying to still fight this, even already it's already been litigated. Yeah. So this is Manchester City showing a precursor of what's going to happen once a ruling on the really big charges come through.
Yeah, which is still
they're
going
willing to fight even after the fight is done.
Yeah, they won't go down quietly.
No, like they're I don't know. Like when I see this, it was kind of funny because I was kind of exacerbated. I was talking with someone else and I said, you know what? All of a sudden, I'm in favor of the European Super League. Put Manchester City in it and tell them to go away.
Yeah, just put them there. Give them their own league.
Give them a league of one.
Yeah, where they can win it every year.
Yeah, because yeah, I know.
This whole thing's exhausting.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, whoever won, I guess you can decide. You can play the spin doctor and make it mean whatever you want. But yeah, APT is going to be amended. It's going to be amended very quickly. Whether or not you think that's good, whether or not you think that's bad, I guess it depends on whether or not you wear blue or not.
Yeah, and this whole thing with City will just continue to go on and on for the next few months.
Oh, yes.
So one last thing here. Andres Iniesta, one of the greatest midfielders of all time, has hung up his boots, officially retired. Arguably the greatest midfielder of all time. You can make an argument for anyone there, but
arguably the greatest Spanish player of all time.
Yep. Just we're one of the best duos in football, one of the best duos of all time. In him, Xavi and Busquets, one of the greatest midfield trios, if not the greatest midfield trio of all time. He's won Champions League, La Liga, first football memories, in the final, in extra time, won the Euros with Spain twice. After leaving Barcelona, he went to Japan to play for Vissel Kobe and spent the last year with Emirates in UAE. So, yeah, salute to one of the greatest midfielders of a generation. Like, this guy started as a defensive midfielder, and then he became an attacking midfielder.
One of the most creative players you'll
see. Yeah, smartest, quickest. Like, this guy was the complete package. Like, the complete midfielder.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the guy who changes games.
Yeah.
Right? This is the guy who your team flows through, right? This is the guy. You build clubs around players like this.
Yeah, this is a guy that played pretty much anywhere in the midfield. Play him centrally, play him up the pitch, playing back behind or deeper. Doesn't matter. He'll do the job.
Individual awards. You can talk about UEFA Team of the Year 6 times. FIFA Pro World Starting 11 9 times. All-time UEFA Euro Starting 11. He's won Best Player in the Europe Award in 2012. Never won the Ballon d'Or, but he was third place choice in 2012.
Yeah, because
you had 2 other guys everyone was looking at, right?
Right. And just the accolades speak for themselves. The awards speak for themselves. Just watching him play was a blessing.
Yeah.
whether you're a Barcelona fan or not, and can't wait to see what he does after. What does next?
I'm curious. I'm curious what he does next. This is one of those guys where I think he loved playing so much
He did.
that nothing else will be there. Or he's going to be the guy that we never really hear of because he's coaching at the youth level somewhere, right? And just doing it for the love.
Yeah, maybe he goes back to La Masia and coaches there. Who knows?
Right? Yeah.
So that'll conclude this week's episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. We didn't go live on the Twitter apparently because the Area 51 Sports Network needs to be verified, and our CEO James is trying to figure that out, I guess.
I was wondering about that. I was looking to link it.
Yeah, and I guess it'll be upgraded hopefully next week.
Cool.
So if you did join us live on Twitter, not Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, thank you. Thank you to everyone listening on the podcast feed. Follow me on Twitter, Joshua00. Nathan is at Enduric. Podcast is at Terminal City FC. Yeah, once again, some exciting thing planned in the future. Not sure when they'll pop up, but hopefully soon.
Absolutely.
So that concludes this week's episode. Peace out.
Take care.